IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach, and today with me we have a very special guest. I've been following her for years for fitness inspiration, well, kind of running inspiration, but that's what we're going to be talking about as well. She's just finished her MSc in sports and exercise nutrition, and she's been a personal trainer with the Heal Institute and Kinetic Living. So, welcome Mishti Khatri to the Habit Coach podcast. Mishti, welcome to Habit Coach podcast.
Hi Ashton, thank you so much for having me.
And
all the lovely things you just said.
See, it's so true, right? Because like every time I look at your post, I'm like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could run, but I'm not going to do that. And and you know that I am not a runner at all, right? I was telling you this the other day that I think the maximum that I possibly run is 10 kilometers and that's it. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to do this again. But, running has become such a popular sport recently.
Definitely.
Right?
Especially with the times that we're going through right now. It's one of the, I think because everyone was stuck at home and not being able to go to the gym, etc., running, cycling, these things just picked up like crazy.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there was a big boom a few years ago as well when running just started, right?
Yeah.
How did you get into it?
Can I do you want the long version or the short version?
Long version. That's what we're here
Long
for.
version. Okay, perfect. So, growing up, I was always a very overweight, chubby teenager. So, in school also, it's very typical, you're typecasted into certain, even though I was very sporty in school, you always typecasted to certain sports that you could play, etc. So, even while I played football, I was always the big defender at the back.
Right.
And when it came to athletics, like the sports day and stuff like that, I was always in tug of war or discus throw, shot put. And I was never into running, even though I really enjoyed it. But I just guessed was pushed into the other things.
All the hefty stuff.
All the hefty, heavy lifting kind of stuff. Even though I wasn't very strong, I never did well at the shot put, whatever, everything else. But then when I kind of lost weight, when I got to the 12th grade and everything, and it wasn't through running, it was just through spinning, swimming, weight training, tennis, things like that. And my dad has done the Mumbai Marathon, the half marathon for I think the past 20 years or something like that.
Oh, wow.
He's done. Yeah, so he used to always, he never did any, and that time, in fact, there weren't too many events how there are right now, now you have some every weekend almost.
Correct.
But that time it was just the Mumbai Marathon that would happen. And he would do the half marathon every year in costume. So he used to have wacky costumes and everything. And that kind of inspired me as well. So I decided that when I lost weight, I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to train to, do the half marathon, etc. So this was back in 2015.
Okay.
I did it once. I didn't train properly for it. I finished the marathon. I took 2 hours, 17 minutes or something like that. And I got a knee injury. So then after that, I again kind of stopped running. Then I got into boxing, Muay Thai, etc.
Okay.
And I tore my shoulder.
Oh,
so
wow.
then I was out of boxing for a while.
Huh.
And then, when you start training for performance and not for aesthetics, you need to channelize that energy towards something else.
Yes.
So I got along with one of my friends, Robin, and he and I started running together, and we had no agenda. He had a park, which was 5 loops was 5 kilometers. So we had this random goal that we want to do 5 kilometers in 25 minutes or less.
Okay.
God knows where either of us picked up this number from.
Nice.
So almost every day we'd go to that park and try to run 5 kilometers in 25 minutes and not realizing that was a pretty decent pace. It's 5 minutes per kilometer,
Correct.
which is pretty good for an amateur runner.
Yeah.
So sometimes you always coming kind of short of it. And that's when I found out about the Nike Run Club through one of the pacers, Priyanka Bagai. So she and I met at one of the ACSM personal training symposiums, met there, and I came to know about the Nike Run Club from her, and that's where it all started in, I think, 2017 or something like that. So it's been 3 years now.
Nice. And what's interesting about running is that it becomes such a social thing, right?
For sure.
You get your groups of runners and it becomes this thing that you bond over. And I remember talking to a psychologist a long time back about running, and she was like, of course, running is very important now, because many people who go through a life-changing moment typically pick up running. So it becomes that life-changing moment either pushes them towards finding a new group of friends, which is why running becomes important, or it is the physical act of running away from something that also starts playing in the mind. It gives you that shanti of your, that peace of mind which people talk about when they're running.
Yeah, exactly. And even for me, it was very interesting because Nike Run Club was Wednesday morning and Saturday morning. And I knew that I found like a good safe space for, young runners to get together, motivate each other. And there were times where I'm running on Carter Road at 6 a.m. when we would meet. And I saw my friends coming back, from parties in town and Tajlands. And so it was so nice to have that Nike Run Club community of young runners where we're foregoing our Friday nights and our weekend plans to get up and run in the morning. So it was nice to have that kind of community.
Nice. I love it. I remember a similar feeling when about 5-6 years ago, when I used to come back home at 6 a.m. every night. Because that was like the fun party time. And nowadays you're waking up at 5:30, and it was just like that mindset shift that had to take place.
Yeah, exactly.
So Mishti, how should people get into running? Like, how do you suggest people get into it, and why should people get into running?
So firstly, as much as I love running, there are some people who just don't like running, and that's fine.
Right.
It's not everyone's cup of tea, and it's just like, it's not that I'm going to push it on everyone, but I definitely say don't shut it down until you don't try it.
Okay.
And because there's been a recent surge in the amount of people running and everything due to COVID. One thing I want to say is that people think running is very easy because it is in a way, but we don't realize that because we've been so sedentary for like the X amount of years leading up to us running, we just suddenly can't get back into it. Yes, it is a very natural movement for us, but say you've been used to sitting all day, lying down, slumping, suddenly you start running, you're getting knee pain, your body isn't strong enough to handle the load, because literally, Ashton, every step that you take, you're getting 3 to 5 times back of your body weight, the force that comes back to you. So your muscles need to be able to absorb that kind of force and not your joints and tendons. So with running, very rarely do we see an ACL injury like you do in football. Running is all very overuse based injury, because with every step you take, it's like you're getting that punch back every time. So your body needs to be conditioned. So for me, it's always about progression, loading, just listening to your body. When something doesn't feel right, it's very likely that it's not right. So just because you think that it's running, like how someone with weight training suddenly won't start lifting 100 kgs if they are, a 100 kg person won't start lifting 300, 500 kgs of a squat. So think about it in the same way with running. You need to progress with it.
And it's so interesting that when you started as well, you had the most common problem with running, which was knee injury. That everybody has a, running matlab knee injury is the go-to thought.
Yeah, exactly. And Ashton, it's something I still deal with today. Like recently, I haven't been running as much as I used to run because when I was in university, I was running a lot on the treadmill because I was literally the guinea pig for a lot of experiments and things like that we did. And that completely changed my gait. So now when I'm trying to run again on the road, things are just not clicking.
Correct.
And I did a gait analysis recently, and I was right. Like my right knee is going into extreme external rotation. So basically it's prone to getting injured again, and I can feel it. So now I need to, from, someone who would run when, that whole Bandra, that Juhu cross road had broken down and that bridge had broken down. I used to literally run to work and run back, to Kinetic Living, which is a good 6-7 kilometers from my house. So 14-15 kilometers, easily I would just run to work and come back. Now I'm struggling to run 5 kilometers at a, very slow pace. And that is something which is very easy to tell someone else, but when you're going through it, yourself,
Correct.
it takes longer to come to terms with it, I'd say.
And Mishti, all these exciting things that you've learned over the last, a few years on, the advanced stuff when it comes to running and your gait analysis and all those things. What of those can you distill out and tell somebody who's just starting off as an amateur? Don't do these things, or at least do these things so that you don't get these issues, and maybe, you could boost your time or something right now in the beginning.
Yeah. So I think for someone who's just starting out, like an absolute beginner, first I'd say is start off with building a disciplined routine.
Okay.
So maybe if you want to run 3 to 4 times a week, if you're training for a half marathon or a 10-kilometer run, and you want to run 3 to 4, start with a walk or jog 3 to 4 times a week. Build that discipline. Then kind of break it into jogging with little bursts of running before you immediately start running. Because I have people messaging me, telling me that I ran 3 kilometers today, but I was completely out of it. And I'm like, because for someone who's never run anything before, it is still 3,000 meters.
Yeah.
Yes, because you follow a lot of runners. Everyone's posting about 21 and above or whatever, in a higher range. But for someone who's never run before, 3 kilometers is also a lot.
Correct.
And
people say, I just did an easy 10K. Easy 10, and I know you've done this, yes.
I used to be one of those.
Right? In easy 10K, I was like, ye kya hota hai? Like, what is an easy 10K?
Yeah. No, so I mean, it's definitely understanding where you're coming from. And another thing is that I don't want to be negative, but I have to be honest over here. If someone is overweight or obese, immediately getting into running may not be the best idea, because like I said, the more body weight you carry, the more force you're receiving back. So that's why when you look at all the marathon runners, they are extremely lean.
Correct.
But if you look at a sprinter, he is pure muscle.
Yes.
Both are muscle, but the marathon runner is extremely thin. And that's because the lighter he is, the faster he can get to a certain extent, obviously, not compromising on his strength. So if someone is very overweight or obese, don't look at running as your first go-to to lose weight or as cardio. You might want to opt for swimming or cycling or just walking if, that is... and then get into running, once you start to gradually lose weight or even get stronger at that weight.
Correct. And I think a large part of when you start running is basically getting your main movers to be strong, right?
Exactly.
And what I mean by your main movers are your glutes. I think all of us just have chronically weak glutes because we're just sitting on them all the time. So
yeah, it's like weakness, tightness, all of it put together. We're constantly in this rounded position. You're not allowing your chest to expand, open up, breathe properly.
Yes.
So and I'd honestly recommend working with a coach or working with a running group if you're a beginner, because it just gives you sort of a direction to follow. Again, that group motivation is very important when or find a friend, find a buddy.
Yeah.
I think that's where you can hold each other accountable. And just progress slowly. An easy way to go is adding 10 to max 10 to 12%, I'd like to say, for a beginner of, say you ran 10 kilometers today. The next week, 10 kilometers was your total weekly mileage.
Okay.
Then week 1 was 10 kilometers. Week 2 will be 11 kilometers. So you want to very gradually add it on. And then when you hit week 4 or week 5, you again want to drop back to 10 kilometers to deload and then maybe go to, 13, 14 as you kind of progress from there. So that's one tip that I like to give. Don't jump very drastically, because when you're initially starting out, it's very exciting, very new.
Yeah.
One run is bad and then the next week you suddenly find yourself much stronger. So take it easy,
And this is such a hard thing for many of us to do, because we get so pumped up and we enjoy that pump of, going for it, going hard, going home, that kind of an attitude.
Yeah.
And I think with running, you need to have that kind of patience. And actually, with the entire sport of running, you need to have that patience. If you're going to be running for 2.5 kilometers, you better have patience. I mean, 2.5 hours, you better you better have patience. Like, I think that's what I don't have. Like, I can't, my mind anyway just cannot just go on in that. How do you deal with that? Like, how do you deal with the monotony of each step, one step, one step, one step, one step, one step?
I think I kind of enjoy the monotony of it in a way. Okay. Putting it monotony in a very positive light.
All right.
I always say this, it's very cheesy, but I call running like meditation in motion. And I've actually had, because see, initially you're like, body's tired, you're just like, getting warmed up. But there's this very sweet middle spot that you kind of hit during the run, and all runners listening to this will like nod their head right now. There's this very sweet spot that you hit where everything is just flowing. Yes, you are aware of what you are doing, but your mind kind of wanders away. And I've had some of my best ideas, breakthroughs in terms of, work, or if I've been struggling with something, I don't know, it's just that subconscious mind kind of takes over when you meditate, So, yeah, and it's, I don't know, there's something very beautiful about, like sometimes, even though I love running with music, sometimes I just take out my music and just listening to the sound of your breath, like working in that kind of rhythmic motion, something very nice about it. Like some of my best memories on trips, etc., has been through running, because I used to wake up. We were in the UK around 2-3 years back. I was traveling with my family, and we did like a road trip around the UK for 3-4 weeks almost. And I would wake up a little bit earlier than the rest of my family, and because it's the UK, I don't need to wake up at 5-6 a.m. to run. It's always cool, and the weather was pretty good since it was summer. And I used to explore the cities on foot, like these little towns, and and like I remember I was somewhere in Scotland, and in Inverness or some little town like that, and I found this little part under the bridge, and I literally was in like a forest with like streams and wooden benches and fairy lights. I was like, wow. Am I dreaming? Yeah. And I would have never found that place had it not been for running.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of acquiring a skill like this. Let me put it this way. So one is you can use it as a fitness technique. You can use it as meditation. And the other aspect is use it as a skill. Right?
Yeah.
You should never feel limited that you cannot run. And I think this is what used to drive me to practice my running. So I never wanted to feel that I could not get away from something. I didn't want to feel that I could not do it if I had to. And so what I started doing was I started running to my gym and back. So my gym was at near Leelavati, and I used to stay at Cut Road. So that is about 5 kilometers. So I used to run 5 kilometers to the gym, and I was like, okay, so this is peaceful. I can do this. Now, in real life, do I ever need to run more than 5 kilometers? Perhaps not.
Yeah.
Correct. So I needed that as a skill, and that's how I started developing that aspect of it. But exactly like you said, it allows you to explore some places that you would never otherwise have been able to go.
Yeah. It gives you a kind of sense of freedom.
And trekking does the same thing. When we go to a mountain or a mountain peak, very few people can get to that mountain peak. So it allows you that ability to do that. So that's, a fantastic way of doing it.
Yeah. Like I remember the first, not in 2015, the first time when I joined the Nike Run Club, I became part of this thing called the Zoom project. So they were launching the new Zoom Pegasus shoes that time. And 4 of us were chosen to kind of, try to break our own PR. No one in running really competes against each other. It's always you against you, which is another thing I love about the sport. Everyone talks about breaking their own, except apart from the elite athletes. They're a different league. But between that, you're not really comparing with your friend what they ran or what, it's always what you ran previously, you breaking your PR. So it was all of us just trying to break our PR. And that was the first time I properly trained for the half marathon. I didn't end up getting the time I wanted to. I was almost 5 minutes slower. So I wanted to do 1 hour 45 minutes, which was about 5 minutes per kilometer. And I did it in about 1 hour 51, 1 hour 52, something like that. But when I crossed the finish line, I literally broke down. I was sitting on the side of the curb and sobbing because I was so overwhelmed with emotion about the fact that I just ran 21 kilometers, And it's not just that, like Mumbai Marathon will be one of my favorite events ever because just the vibe and the electricity that you feel in the city. Like I remember running on Pedder Road, and that's like the hardest kind of bit, because it's a little uphill climb and everything that you have. And it was smelling of oranges because all the people in the buildings around were standing with fresh oranges, limbu pani, and the whole city was just, cheering you on.
Super.
And then I think the year after that or something like that, we did this campaign with, again with Nike and different women. We kind of wanted to break the taboo of running in a sports bra and talking about the importance of the sports bra, not just as a aesthetic thing, but how it's a necessity for a woman in sport.
Correct.
And kind of breaking the taboo around that. And whoever was comfortable with it, so I'm comfortable working out in my sports bra, running in my sports bra, whenever it's safe. So the Mumbai Marathon was a safe space for me to run that way. Running in sports bra and shorts in Bombay, you don't really expect that, but we were given the option to, and I was like, yeah, I wanted to. And we got our sports bras personalized. So mine said, can't stop, won't stop. And I have that tattooed also.
Nice.
And so it was such a nice experience because not once did I feel uncomfortable or feel stared at. And I think it's only a city that very rarely do you get that back. Like people were cheering us on. Like even if there were guys running with me, it never felt uncomfortable or anything. So it's more than the fact that I did the races. It was the experience of it as a whole, that sense of, community like we spoke about previously.
Lovely. And I think that all works towards making running such an amazing activity to start off doing, if that is what's in your bent of mind as well.
Exactly.
So Mishti, to come back to, what are the things you know now that you wish you had known when you had started? Like, tell me three things that you wish you had known when you had started that make so much sense to you now.
Yeah. So the first thing, like I said, when I just started running, it was aimlessly trying to beat 25 minutes for the 5K, And I think the first thing is that have a plan. First is pick a goal.
Okay.
What is your goal?
All right.
And then you need to work backwards towards that. So say you want to run a 21 kilometer, I'll give that as a 21 kilometer event. And so you need to work backwards. So say the event, you need to have at least 4 months of training. But if you really want to break a solid time or something, then I'd say 4 to 6 months easily it takes to properly train from it. So it's not just one day you can wake up and get up and do it, you know. And the thing is that when you have a goal, it's very easy to then schedule your training. When you're working with a coach, and say if you can't afford to work with a coach initially or whatever reason you don't want to work with a coach, there are a lot of great apps also, like the Nike Run Club app, which will help you, which literally has a My Coach feature, and it tells you how many runs to do, what run to do today, and it also tracks it. So, it's a very easy thing that you can do.
Right.
It's not like you need to go extremely out of your way to have that kind of schedule and goal. So definitely find a goal, plan according to it. And a third thing I would say is remember that yes, it might be a straight run that you're doing, but think of it as a hill journey.
Okay.
Because it's always going to have its ups and downs.
Nice.
A lot of factors depend on how well your run went.
Yes.
Did you recover enough from your previous workouts? Are you strength training enough? Did you sleep well? Your eating, hydration, did you have pasta for dinner? Did you have chicken for dinner? And you're running the next day in the morning on an empty stomach.
Correct.
All of these things matter. So don't be hell-bent on just the numbers. A lot of the times, if someone's beginning, I'll tell them, don't look at the pace. Don't look at anything else. I just want you to tell me on a scale of 1 to 10. How difficult was it? This 5 kilometer, did it, like you must be knowing about the RPE scale, right? The rate of perceived exertion.
Okay.
Very important, the word perceived in it, because your perception may be different from my perception,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
So
how do you measure that? Just to tell people.
It's just like if you did a 5 kilometer run, I'll ask you what was your RPE? How tough was it for you on a scale of, there are different scales. There's one which is 11 to 20 and there is one which is 1 to 10. So you can accordingly pick, and it has a nice like a graphic sheet. So it's got like these smiley faces and how tough it is for you.
Nice.
And
so you can just search for this online and you'll get an RPE.
It'll be called Borg's RPE scale. BORG
Borg's
-L.
Okay.
Yeah. Borg's RPE scale. So you can understand. So usually if I'm working with a client or someone, I'll send them the scale and be like, okay, how did you feel today? And or just even on 1 to 10, it's very easy to like 10 being an all-out sprint, 1 being sitting on a chair not doing anything.
Right.
How tough was this run for you? So don't look at the pace, etc. And automatically when you start running, say a 5K was a 7 for you or an 8. the next time you do it after say 3 weeks, that at a faster pace you might find yourself saying that, oh, it was just a 6 or a 7, like something like that. And honestly speaking, when I do work with my like running training and everything with different clients, I always tell them I don't even want you to hit an 8 or a 9 in training.
Yes.
Unless I'm giving you a speed workout, then I want you to hit the 9s and maybe come close to a 10. The only time I want you to give a 9 and 10 is when you're racing all out.
Nice.
Otherwise, your training, I want it to be between 5 to max, like a lower 8 or, just like something like that.
Super.
So, yeah.
That's so much to unpack in what you were saying. Sorry, Mishti, you were saying something.
No, I was just meaning that at the end of a run, remember that you should always have a little bit extra in you. Say if I told you suddenly run 200 meters more, that you shouldn't be all out dead at the end of the run. That's when you know you've done it wrong.
Right. Very nice tip.
Yeah.
Very nice tip. Because at the end of the run, also you need to run to that Irani restaurant for chai biscuit and all of that, right? So you need to have that little energy in it afterwards. But there's so much to unpack in what you just said. One is set yourself a goal. Many people don't start off with a goal. They say, we'll go for a morning run. But that morning run also has to have a goal that you're working towards, because that keeps you on point, motivated, and gives you a target to go after.
And it keeps you accountable. Why? I always ask people why, even when it comes to, say you're doing weight training, why are you doing it? What is your goal? Pick a goal. Because I feel like when people have things like, there's no harm in having things like weight loss as a goal, but it should be a subsequent thing. Because today I'll keep 3 scales right in front of me, not wearing anything, because that's when you should ideally take your body weight. All 3 scales will tell me something differently at 3 different times of the day.
Correct.
So have a bit more of a, performance-based goal.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm going to let you continue.
No problem. Have a performance-based goal is more important than having just a weight goal or an aesthetic goal in this context. Correct? Yeah. The next is get yourself a coach, either a real coach and a club that you can join together, or a virtual coach, depending on how your finances are and how you can do it. Because I think that plan is very important when it comes to running, especially, because I have no idea what is a speed run, why should I be doing this, when should I be doing that, and that's critical to get yourself a coach for that. The next measurement is also measure your perceived output, like how tired are you at the end of that workout. And what I loved about what you said is during trainings, never ever kill yourself. Correct? Unless you have to for that particular training.
Yeah.
Most of your training should be at that 5-6, 5-6, 5-6. And, even with weight training, that's when I get really upset when people keep doing your 1 PRs, 1 PRs, 1 PRs. Right? If you keep doing your one max lift, you're never training yourself for anything. Correct?
Exactly.
So focus on the 5-6 as an exertion amount, because that's when your maximum recovery can also take place from.
Yeah, and I think max going up to 7, if you're doing a long tempo run, something like that, So that's what what you summarized it perfectly.
Okay, and now I want 2 things for the super advanced runners that either you have managed to master over these last year, because I know you've been doing some crazy stuff. That's what we're going to be talking about in the next podcast that's going to come out day after tomorrow. But what I want you to do is tell me 2 things that you've either mastered or is part of your goal to crack that you think is going to make a big difference to all our advanced runners listening to this right now.
Okay, so I think one thing for certain is that obviously after doing my nutrition course, I realized that obviously nutrition is very important, but not just your training, how well you recover is very important. Because only if you're recovering well are you setting yourself up to be able to train better, harder, more efficiently the next day. So whether you can do that, it's not whether, there are a couple of things that work together to allow you to recover better. So it's definitely your food intake, and certain training aids that you can take. Say a lot of people have caffeinated gels or just maybe an electrolyte drink while running. Things like this are what make the small differences. A lot of people I know don't even have water during their run because they're like, I'm training myself. Yeah, I understand that sometimes you may not get water in a run and you may need to run without water, so you are training yourself. But putting your body through that is not giving you any special training advantages. It might just be causing long-term disadvantages for you, you know. So don't be afraid to have a few gels. Or a lot of people I see, a lot of runners don't even have enough protein. It's always very carb focused for runners, which is important. Carbs are important for energy. And I definitely think making sure that your nutrition is on point, especially when you're kind of at an elite-ish or like a higher amateur level, it plays a very important role apart from your training. Obviously, they both work hand to hand. I don't think either one is going to work without the other.
Correct. And we need to geek out about this on our next episode, okay? There's so much about nutrition that we have to talk about, especially with running and training.
I'm very excited to talk about that too.
And one more thing.
Yes. Another thing would be, I think even making sure that you're getting, you know, again, talking about recovery actually. If you are feeling something, don't ignore it. I think every good runner should have a physiotherapist, a massage therapist who they can work with. Because as a runner, like I said, your body does take a lot of wear and tear.
Correct.
So it's very important to have all of this scheduled in place, you know, especially if you're training for something. Take your recovery as important as your training. Maybe if something else comes to me, I will mention it, because I know I spoke both points about recovery.
No, I love it, because, you know, the whole goal is not to train like an athlete, but to recover like an athlete. And we completely miss that point. We keep thinking, you know, balls to the wall, go hard as much as you can. But it's actually the recovery that is there afterwards that makes the big difference, because that's when you see the big performance jumps taking place. Like even in the kind of stuff that I do, which is nowhere close to anything athletic, but it is about like the way that I feel and the way that my body recovers after exercise is, again, you have to focus on that recovery aspect of it. And what I loved was that you start off with your running support group, but you end with a team, and you have to create that team around you when you start getting more and more advanced. Like, sure enough, it's only you out there running with your music or with your thoughts, but you need that support system at the back, that team that helps you recover, that pushes you. And whether it is your family members, you know, pushing you on, or being sympathetic, or you have your massage therapist helping you with it, or a physiotherapist helping you with it. Create that team as you start advancing.
Exactly. And you know, another thing that I really like to remember when I'm running is that I know I'm never alone. Even though I may be alone on that stretch of road, I know for certain at any given point in the world, someone else is also running. You know, and that is a very like comforting fact. You know, to know that around the world, some other country, some other street, someone else is also probably feeling the same way that I'm feeling, struggling through that run. So it's a nice feeling to have.
What a beautiful thought. What a beautiful thought.
That you're not alone.
You're never alone. Yes.
Exactly.
It's like looking up at the sky and seeing somebody else is looking at the same star as I am.
Yeah, it's very romantic and very poetic in a lot of ways.
Love it. Love it. Super. Thank you so much, Mishti, for joining us on the Habit Coach podcast. The next episode that we're going to be doing is all technical and geeky, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So guys, please join us for that. Mishti, where can people connect with you, reach out to you? How would you like them to message you? I think my Instagram would be the best place to get in touch with me. And if it's a bit more technical, I miss DMs sometimes, so please don't take it personally. You can always email me at mishtikhatri15@gmail.com. And my Instagram handle is just Mishti Khatri. Mishti Khatri 15, because she started running in 2015, and that's when she started. It's actually my birthday. Love it. It's 2015. Awesome. Yes, thank you so much, Ashdin. It was so easy to talk to you. Thank you. That was so much fun. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com. Or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome 180.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Speaking of Instagram, Niharika Pandey joined Cyrus this week on Cyrus Says. Niharika is the strategic partner manager for Instagram India. Great conversation about the plans for Instagram in India. Karanjit Kaur joined the guys at Uncle Please Sit. Another really interesting conversation about the patriarchy. On Advertising is Dead, old friend Suchita Salwan showed up. Suchita is the founder of LBB. Great conversation she had with Varun. Definitely do check that out as well. Tanvi Lad, who is a nationally ranked badminton player, was on the Habit Coach with Ashdin Doctor. Great conversation. I would highly, highly recommend that. The Football Shitwall guys are back. They've been back for a few weeks, but definitely do check out their latest episode. Great conversation they had. On Aditi Surana's Absolutely Right, Manju Sara Rajan was the guest, and again, a great conversation was to be had over there. As always, great conversations all across the board. Check out some of the other stuff like Smile India, Know Your Kanun, and All Things Policy. All of them had fresh episodes this week, but with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Advertising is dead. Yep, you heard me right. Advertising is dead. We're all in the content business now. Let's not call it news, TV, radio, etc., etc. It's all content, and we're in the middle of this weirdly exciting phase where all the borders and lines that have been drawn over decades has been swept away by this lovely thing called the internet. We're a show where we don't dwell on just the stuff that is now, but rather the wider stuff about advertising, media, content, and the whole goddamn circus surrounding it. Tune in every Tuesday for our weekly unboxing of the mystery box we used to call advertising. I'm Varun Dugirala, co-founder and content chief at The Glitch, and this is my new podcast, Advertising is Dead.